Children at secondary schools in the north of England and the Midlands are less likely to get as good an education as those in the south and east, according to reports from the Chief Inspector of Schools. It says despite improvements in primary education, there is still a north-south divide in secondary schools. Katie Rickett is at a secondary school in Blackpool for us this morning. Morning, Katie. So what is this gap in performance down to then?
Good morning, Charlotte. Well, one of the reasons is it can be tougher to recruit teachers into places like Blackpool, coastal areas and northern regions to take this role that I'm playing this morning of teacher. And it's also more difficult for them to achieve things like this, good facilities, when they actually get less funding than, say, London schools. And that's because London schools used to do worse than the rest of the country. That now, as you've just heard, has completely flipped around. And the boss of Ofsted says it's simply not good enough and that gap needs to be bridged.
When it comes to funding, secondary schools are about to get more cash than ever. But if your child is registered in the Midlands or the North, they could be getting a rough deal.
Everyone in our country should have the same opportunities for success. Why aren't we identifying potentially good and great leaders in our system and appointing them to places that need them most?
89% of primary schools are now rated good or outstanding, but secondaries in the Midlands and the North are lagging behind. Recruitment pressures, a less qualified workforce and a need for strong leadership could be to blame. But with Brexit looming, critics say the gap between North and South needs closing and fast.
The government needs to stop fixating on the dogma of grammar schools and academies for that matter, and actually start collaborating within our areas and building a real northern powerhouse instead of the northern poorhouse.
The Department for Education says it wants all schools to have access to the resources they need and is trying to end what it calls historic unfairness in the system. Katie Rickett, Good Morning Britain.